The human, whose milled sky of Arcanine glowed with soft green light, as two suns hung low on the horizon. Giant towers made of black crystal reached into the sky. The streets were wide, built to carry the heavy steps of the giant race called the Varconians. Among the crowds of tall, powerful creatures walked a much smaller figure, a human named Ethan. He was part of a new interspecies exchange program, sent from Earth to help build peaceful trade between humans and Varconians. Most humans stayed close to their assigned areas, nervous to be surrounded by such large, strange beings. But not Ethan. He walked through the grand marketplace with curious eyes, amazed by everything he saw. The Varconians, though tall and strong, kept their distance from him, watching him with cold eyes. They did not trust humans yet. The old story spoke of humans as fragile and weak, and among these giant Varconians stood Velraka. She was the largest Varconian female in the city. Her shoulders were wider than any male's. Her arms looked like thick stone pillars. Her deep purple skin gleamed in the sunlight, and her glowing yellow eyes watched everything around her. The males whispered when she passed. None dared approach her. She is too massive, some said. She will crush any mate, others whispered. No male could stand beside her. Velraka heard their words every day. She had grown used to their fear. Long ago, she hoped one would see her as more than her size, but none ever did, until today. As Velraka stood near a fruit stand, picking strange glowing orbs for her meal, she noticed movement nearby. The small human, Ethan, walked past. Her massive form cast a long shadow over him. Normally, others would hurry away when they saw her, but this human stopped for a moment and looked up at her. Their eyes met, and then something happened that Velraka never expected. He smiled. It was not a nervous or fake smile. It was warm, simple, and gentle. Velraka blinked, unsure how to react. No one had ever smiled at her before. Not like this. Ethan nodded politely and continued walking, as if nothing strange had happened. Velraka stood frozen for several seconds, feeling something strange inside her chest. Why did that small human smile at me? She wondered. The whispering malice nerby, a group of Varconian males, watched the moment with cold eyes. Did you see that? One hissed. The human smiled at Velraka. Does he not fear her? Another male growled. He insults our ways. No one dares approach her. He must be taught his place. The group began to whisper and plot. Velraka as curiosity later. That evening, as the twin moons rose above the black towers, Velraka sat alone on a high balcony. The city below was quiet, but her mind was loud. She replayed the moment again and again. The small human, the gentle smile, the absence of fear. Why, she whispered to herself, does he not see how massive I am? Does he not know what others think of me? For the first time in years, someone had looked at her like she was more than just her size, and it made her heart stir in ways she had long forgotten. Ethan's view. Meanwhile, back in his small guest chamber, Ethan thought about the tall alien female he had passed earlier. He remembered her sharp yellow eyes, her strong build, but also her quiet sadness. She looked lonely. Ethan whispered to himself. He knew many humans would fear such a giant alien, but Ethan had seen something different. Strength was not frightening to him. What frightened him more was the emptiness he saw in her eyes, the pain of being avoided by everyone. Sometimes all it takes is one small act of kindness to change a person's world, he thought, and for him, that simple smile was natural. The unseen danger far across the city, in a secret chamber, the group of jealous Varconian males gathered again. Tomorrow, one said, we will warn him. The human must learn that Velraka is not for him. He disrespects our kind by even daring to look at her. Their plan had begun. The seed has been planted that night. As Velraka stared at the moons and Ethan drifted into sleep, both of them felt something new was beginning. A silent spark had been lit. Neither fully understood it yet, but it would soon grow into something that would change both their lives, and perhaps the future of two entire species, all because one human dared to smile. Asterisk, the first conversations. Next morning, the twin suns of Arcanine rose high, filling the sky with soft golden light. The city came alive again with sounds of heavy footsteps, deep voices, and the sharp hum of trade ships flying above. Ethan walked through the marketplace, carefully observing the beautiful alien world around him. He still felt like a visitor in a strange land, but he was not afraid. His human curiosity burned bright. But today, he felt something else too. He hoped to see Velraka again. The giant alien female had remained in his mind since yesterday. There was something in her eyes, a quiet sadness hidden behind great strength. The unseen watchers far behind him, hidden among the thick stone columns. The jealous Varkonian males watched Ethan carefully. Their leader, Koruk, growled softly, "There he is again. The human still dares to walk freely," another hissed, "and today, we shall speak to him." The group followed silently, waiting for the right moment. Velraka's hesitation high above. Velraka stood on one of the tall crystal balconies, watching the busy marketplace below, her eyes locked onto the small human again. She felt her chest tighten. "He is here again," she whispered to herself. Her massive hand gripped the balcony edge as thoughts raced through her mind. "Should I speak to him? No male has ever approached me," but he smiled. He wasn't afraid. Her ears twitched. "Perhaps. I can try." With a deep breath, she left the balcony and made her way down. The encounter then browsed a vendor selling small glowing stones. When a large shadow slowly covered him, he looked up. There stood Velraka. Her massive form blocked the sunlight. Her yellow eyes stared down at him, serious but unsure. For a moment, the marketplace fell silent. Many Varkonians stopped to watch. The males narrowed their eyes, whispering among themselves. But Ethan remained calm. Slowly, he smiled again. "Good morning," he said gently. Velraka's heart skipped. Her voice, deep yet soft, came slowly. "You are not afraid of me?" Ethan shook his head. "Why should I be afraid? You haven't done anything to harm me." She blinked, confused. "But I am massive, larger than any other. The males fear me. They avoid me." Ethan looked directly into her eyes. "Size is not something to fear. I see strength, and strength can be beautiful." Velraka's breath caught in her throat. No one had ever said such words to her. The first real connection for a few seconds. Neither spoke. The marketplace remained unusually quiet as all eyes stayed on them. Finally, Velraka spoke again. "I am Velraka." Ethan smiled wider. "I am Ethan. It's an honor to meet you, Velraka." Her ears twitched again. "You are different from other humans, and you are different from anyone I've ever met," Ethan replied kindly. A strange warmth filled Velraka's chest. For the first time in her life, someone spoke to her like an equal, not with fear or pity. The jealous confrontation soonly, Koruk and his group stepped forward, interrupting the moment. "Human," Koruk growled loudly, "you speak too freely with Velraka. Our traditions do not allow such disrespect." Ethan turned calmly toward them. "I mean no disrespect. I am simply speaking with someone who deserves respect." The crowd gasped. Softly, Koruk stepped closer, towering over Ethan, though still smaller than Velraka. "You think your tiny words give you the right to approach her. She belongs to no one, not even us." Before Ethan could answer, Velraka's deep voice cut through the tension. "Enough." Her powerful voice echoed across the marketplace. She stepped between Ethan and Koruk. "I do not belong to anyone. I choose who I speak to." Koruk growled, but dared not challenge her directly in public. The crowd slowly began whispering. Surprised by her bold defense of the human, a silent Victor Ikarak finally stepped back, muttering under his breath, "This is not over." He and his followers walked away, their pride wounded. Velraka turned back to Ethan, her voice much softer now. "Forgive them, our people. Fear change." Ethan shook his head gently. "Change often starts with one simple conversation and one smile." For the first time, Velraka smiled back. It was small, awkward, but it was real. And that simple moment would become the seed of something far greater than either of them yet knew. The growing bondays passed on VA or K on -9. The sunrises painted the skies with golden light, and the two moons shone together every night. But something new was growing quietly beneath those skies, a bond between the very different beings. Velraka found herself thinking about Ethan often. No one had ever spoken to her like he did. His small size meant nothing to her. His smile, his calm voice, and his courage had reached her in a way no Varkonian male ever had. The unexpected meetings almost every day. They met at the marketplace. At first, they only exchanged greetings, simple words, soft smiles, but soon, their conversations grew longer. Ethan spoke of Earth, its oceans, its forests, and its small creatures. He told stories about how humans value not just strength, but kindness, wisdom, and inner courage. Velraka listened closely. On Earth, some of the strongest leaders were not the biggest or loudest, Ethan explained. They led with kindness and earned respect because of their hearts. Velraka's ears twitched. In my world, strength has always been shown by size and power, but sometimes I wonder if strength can be something softer. Ethan smiled gently. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is offer kindness when everyone else offers fear. The growing whisper of jealousy bit while their bond quietly grew. So did the jealousy of the Varkonian males dot in hidden chambers? Korak met with his small group of followers again. He continues to meet her, Korak growled. This human dishonors us all. He makes us look weak, one of the others whispered, but Velraka protects him. The people are watching. Some even begin to speak well of him. Korak slammed his fist against the stone table. Then we must act. If we allow this to continue, everything will change. His eyes burned with anger. Tomorrow, we will give the human one final warning, the secret gift that evening. As the twin moons rose again, Velraka and Ethan sat by a peaceful river near the city. The water reflected the light softly. Strange glowing plants floated on its surface. Velraka brought something with her, a small crystal flower from the northern mountains. Rare and beautiful. She handed it to Ethan. This is for you. Ethan's eyes widened. It's beautiful, but why give it to me? Velraka lowered her head slightly. Among my people, giving such a flower means respect, trust, and perhaps hope. Ethan smiled warmly. Then I will keep it. Close. They sat in silence, both feeling the strange warmth between them growing stronger. Something deep inside both hearts had changed. Neither dared to say the word, but both felt it. The confrontation next morning, as Ethan walked through the market, he was suddenly stopped. Korak and his followers stood blocking his path. Korak stepped forward, his large frame towering over Ethan. Human, he growled. You have been warned. You do not belong here. Stay away from Velraka. She deserves a mate of her own kind. Ethan stayed calm. I have never forced anything. I only speak with her because she chooses to speak with me. She is free. Korak's voice grew sharper. Your weakness insults our traditions. You will leave, or you will face consequences. Ethan looked directly into Korak's angry eyes. Kindness is not weakness, and fear will not control me. The market fell silent. Many Varkonians watched closely. Even some of the younger males whispered, he is brave. Velraka's arrival before Korak could react. Velraka appeared behind him. Her voice was deep and firm. Enough, Korak. Korak froze. Velraka stepped between them, her powerful frame blocking Korak completely. I choose who I speak with, and I choose to speak with Ethan. Korak growled, but dared not challenge her directly. You shame us all. Velraka's eyes narrowed. The only shame here is fear of change. The first small victory, Korak and his group slowly stepped back and disappeared. Into the crowd, Velraka turned to Ethan, her voice much softer now. Are you unharmed? Ethan nodded. I'm fine. Thank you for standing with me. Velraka smiled gently. You have stood with me from the start. They shared a quiet moment together, stronger than any words. But both knew this small victory was only the beginning. The council would not stay silent for long. A greater challenge was coming. The challenge of honor there inside the Grand Council Hall of Varkonian was heavy. The tall black crystal pillars stretched high into the sky. Hundreds of Varkonians gathered. Filling the giant hall with low whispers, at the center stood the High Council, the oldest and most powerful Varkonians, and now, standing before them were Velraka and Ethan, the council's decisions leader of the council. Elder Vorin raised his heavy staff. You have forced this meeting, Velraka, Vorin said, his deep voice echoing. Velraka stood tall, her voice steady. I have broken no law. I have spoken to one who shows me respect. Vorin looked down at Ethan. You are not Varkonian. You are not of our blood. Yet you dare walk with one of our strongest females. Ethan answered calmly, I came here to learn and help. I never meant to insult your people. Korak stood to the side, his eyes full of hate. He has already insulted us by being here. Murmurs spread through the hall. The council whispered among themselves. Finally, Vorin spoke again. If the human wishes to remain, he must prove his worth. The room fell silent. The trial of worth, Vorin continued. By ancient law, when an outsider seeks honor among us, they must face the trial of worth. It will test his body, his mind, and his spirit. Velraka's eyes widened. The trial of worth was dangerous. No human had ever faced it before. She stepped forward quickly. This is unfair. He is not built like us. He may not survive. Vorin's voice remained cold. Then let him decline and leave our world. All eyes turned to Ethan. He stood quietly for a moment, thinking. Then he looked at Velraka and softly smiled. I accept. The room erupted in gasps. Velraka whispered, her voice tight with worry. Ethan, you don't have to do this. Ethan nodded gently. I came here to build trust. If this is how I earn your people's respect, then I will try. Velraka felt her chest tighten. She admired his courage, but feared for his safety. The first trial, the path of strength. Next morning, the first trial began. Ethan stood inside a large arena surrounded by Varkonians. Thick stone walls towered around him. The first challenge tested his strength. Massive stone blocks were placed before him. Varkonian males could lift them easily. For Ethan, they were far too heavy. The crowd whispered, he will fail already. But Ethan did not try to lift the stones with brute force. Instead, he studied them carefully. He noticed small grooves under the blocks. Using a long metal rod, he created a lever and slowly rolled the stones one by one into place. The crowd watched in silence. The judges marked his work. Task complete. Ethan passed the first trial, not with strength, but with clever thinking. Velraka smiled proudly. The second trial, the path of second trial brought Ethan into a dark underground chamber. Loud growls echoed through the tunnels. Strange creatures moved in the shadows. The trial was to walk through the tunnels calmly, without running or showing fear. Ethan moved slowly. He controlled his breath, remembering his training on Earth. Fear grows when we feed it. Stay calm, he told himself. He heard sharp claws scraping near him, but stayed steady. Finally, after what felt like endless steps, he reached the exit. The judges declared, task complete. Once again, Ethan succeeded. Velraka watched with great respect. The crowd began to murmur differently now. He is not weak after all. The third trial, the path of spirit final trial, tested his spirit. In front of the entire council, Ethan faced sharp words from powerful council members who questioned his worth, insulted his species, and accused him of dishonoring their traditions. Many humans would have shouted back. Many would have grown angry, but Ethan stood calmly. He spoke softly, but firmly. I came here with no weapons. I offer only respect and friendship. If my kindness is weakness, then I choose to be weak. But I believe true strength is standing calm when others expect you to fall. The hall fell silent. Even Vorin paused, surprised by Ethan's words. The unexpected shift. After long whispers, Vorin finally raised his staff. You have passed the trial of worth. The crowd erupted in noise. Some cheered. Some stayed silent. But many looked at Ethan with new eyes. Velraka stepped forward, her voice strong. You see now. Strength wears many forms. Korok watched silently, his anger growing darker. His plan had failed for now. But deep inside the council halls, others, who feared change, were already planning new ways to stop this bond from growing. The real danger was not over, but something beautiful had already begun. The hidden anonymized trial of worth had ended. Ethan had passed. Against all expectations, the human who once stood alone had now earned respect from many Varkonians. Some even greeted him in the streets. Others nodded in silence, their hearts slowly changing. But not everyone was pleased. In the shadowy corners of the council hall, not all had accepted this peace. Some elders, old and proud, feared what was happening, and Korok had not forgotten his shame. The meeting in the shadow slate. At night, deep under the city, a group of powerful Varkonians met in secret. Korok stood at the center of them. The human has become a symbol, he said, voice low. He makes our males look weak. He dares walk beside Velraka. He has broken our order. One elder growled, and the people watched. Some even began to think, maybe humans can be more. Another added, if we allow this to grow, the future will not belong to us. It will belong to them. Korok's voice turned cold. Then we stop it, not with words, but with action. Velraka's suspicion back in the upper chambers. Velraka sat quietly beside the river's edge. She had never felt peace like this before. Her heart, once heavy with silence, now felt light, but a part of her remained alert. Something didn't feel right. She noticed whispers in the market, the same faces watching too often, guards standing in strange places. When she shared her thoughts with Ethan, he nodded. Back on Earth, when change begins, those in power sometimes try to stop it. We must be careful. Velraka agreed. They began moving more carefully, watching, listening, waiting. The Sabotage 3 days later, during a joint ceremony to mark a new trade agreement between humans and Varkonians, disaster struck. As Ethan walked up the main steps of the Crystal Hall, the ground beneath him suddenly gave way. The crowd gasped. A sharp, silent trap had been set. A hidden pit meant to look like part of the design, but Velraka had been walking beside him. At the last second, she grabbed him and pulled him back. They both tumbled away just before the floor collapsed. Gasps echoed. Ethan stood up, shaken. Velraka's massive hand stayed protectively over him. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "No," he said, catching his breath. "But someone tried to kill me." The council rushed to investigate. Korik's lease later that day, during an emergency council meeting, Korik stood and spoke with false concern. "It was a mistake," he said. "A flaw in the stonework. No one is to blame." But Velraka stepped forward, eyes glowing with anger. "No, it was not a mistake. It was a message. You tried to remove the human." Korik's voice hardened. "He has no place here. You shame us by walking beside him." Ethan stood beside her. "This is not about tradition anymore. It's about control. You fear change, but fear will not stop us." The council chamber fell into silence, but no punishment came. Not yet. The turning of the people that night. Something unexpected happened. Ordinary Varkonians, merchants, workers, and even young warriors came to visit Ethan and Velraka. They brought food, words of support. Some even apologized for past silence. One young male said, "You faced the trial. You earned your place, and you fight without hate. That is true strength." Velraka watched with pride. The people were changing, not because of power, but because of kindness, bravery, and truth. Korik's final plan bit in the shadows. Korik prepared his last move. He no longer trusted the council. He wanted to end this peace forever. Tomorrow, he told his secret followers, "We strike." At the Unity celebration, we remove the human and silence Velraka forever. Ethan's calm before the storm that evening as the stars shimmered above the peaceful river. Ethan and Velraka sat side by side. "Tomorrow, the galaxy will watch," Velraka said softly. Ethan nodded. "That we show them who we really are." Velraka looked down at him. "I am not afraid anymore, because I stand beside someone who sees my soul, not just my size." Ethan smiled. "And I stand beside someone whose strength comes from her heart." They sat in silence, ready for what was coming, because the true test was not just survival. It was showing the galaxy that unity is stronger than fear. After the battle for Unity day of the Unity celebration arrived, the entire city of Vark-9 was glowing with lights. Huge banners of both human and Varkonian symbols waved gently in the warm breeze. Thousands of Varkonians gathered around the Grand Plaza. Humans stood side by side with them. For the first time in history, both species celebrated peace together, but deep inside the shadows, Korik and his followers prepared for violence. "This ends today," Korik growled. "The council may be blind, but we will remind them who holds true power." The celebration begins at the center of the grand stage. Velraka stood proudly. She wore the ceremonial armor of her people, shining under the twin suns. Beside her stood Ethan, dressed simply, but with the mark of honor now engraved on his chest, the symbol given only to those who passed the trial of worth. The High Council leader, Elder Vorin, addressed the gathered crowds. "Today, we witness the birth of something new. Fear has ruled us for generations, but fear has been broken. Strength is no longer measured only by size or power, but by wisdom, by courage, and by kindness." The crowd roared in approval. Ethan looked across the sea of faces. He saw hope everywhere. Velraka whispered to him softly, "Look how far we have come." Ethan smiled. Together, Korik's added suddenly. Sharp whistles cut through the air. A group of armored warriors charged forward from the side streets, Korik's secret soldiers. The crowd screamed and scattered in panic. Velraka instantly moved to protect Ethan, standing in front of him like a living wall. Korik's voice boomed over the chaos. "The human will not rule us. You shame our kind with this weakness." Korik himself stepped forward, wielding a massive energy blade. "You, Velraka, should have stood with your own, but you betrayed us for him," Velraka growled, her voice deep and steady. "No, I stand for truth. You stand for fear." The dueled crowd backed away as Korik charged toward Velraka. Their massive bodies clashed, shaking the ground. Korik swung his blade wildly, but Velraka blocked with powerful arms. The two giants fought fiercely in front of the hole. City. Ethan stood ready to help, but Velrocka shouted, "Stay back. This is my fight." Korok snarled, "You are nothing without size." Velrocka answered firmly, "No, Korok. I am everything because I choose to protect, not to destroy." With one final surge of strength, Velrocka disarmed him. His weapon crashed to the ground. She grabbed him by the shoulders, forcing him to his knees. "Your time of fear is over." The crowd erupted in cheers. The people Rissi as Korok's warriors saw their leader fall. Many dropped their weapons. Ordinary Varkonians stepped forward, standing with Velrocka and Ethan. One young warrior shouted, "No more fear. We stand for unity." More voices followed. "Strength is not hate. We choose peace." The balance had finally shifted. The people had spoken. The Aftermath Council immediately arrested Korok and his followers. Their secret plans were exposed. Elder Vorin stepped forward, looking at Velrocka and Ethan. "Today, you both saved our people from themselves. You have shown us that strength is not only in power, but in courage to stand against fear." He turned to the people. "From this day forward, humans and Varkonians will walk together as equals." Cheers filled the air once more. Velrocka and Ethan's momentous. The celebration continued. Velrocka and Ethan stood quietly on a high balcony, watching the city glow with new hope. Velrocka spoke softly. "I was once called the massive, the dangerous, untouchable, but you smiled." Ethan looked at her gently. "And you showed me that even the strongest hearts can feel lonely. All it takes is one person to see who you really are." She smiled deeply, "And now they see. US too." They stood side by side, not as human and alien, not as weak and strong, but as two souls who dared to trust when others feared. But while peace now bloomed, one final step remained: the creation of something that would forever change both their worlds. A new future together. The twin sons of Varkanine rose gently over the mountains. As the city woke to a new day, for the first time in generations, the air felt lighter. The heavy chains of old fears had finally broken. Humans and Varkonians worked side by side in the streets, building new schools, planting gardens, and sharing stories. Children from both worlds laughed and played together under the glowing trees. The future had begun. The Unity Academy at the center of the city stood a newly built academy. The Unity Academy. Here, young humans and Varkonians would learn together. They would study not only science and trade, but also the lessons of courage, kindness, and emotional strength that brought this peace. On the first day of classes, Velrocka stood before a large crowd of students. Ethan stood proudly beside her. Her deep voice spoke clearly. "Once, I was feared because of my size. Many saw only strength in my body, but never in my heart. But one human dared to see more." She turned to Ethan, her golden eyes warm. "He taught me that true strength is not about crushing others. True strength isn't standing calmly when fear tells you to run. It is choosing kindness when anger wants to lead." The young students listened with wide eyes. Velrocka continued, "From this day forward, we teach you not to fear each other's differences, but to honor them. Together, we are stronger." The crowd cheered. The personal bond lit that evening as the twin moons rose. Ethan and Velrocka walked quietly through the peaceful gardens. Soft glowing flowers lit their path. Ethan spoke softly, "Do you remember the first time we met?" Velrocka smiled. "You smiled at me, and you looked surprised." Velrocka laughed gently. "No one had ever smiled at me before. I thought my size made me unapproachable." Ethan shook his head. "Your size was never what I saw first. I saw strength, yes, but also sadness and great kindness hidden behind your eyes." Velrocka's large hand gently held his smaller one. "I once thought no one would ever stand beside me, but you stood, and because you did, our worlds stand together now." They paused beneath a tall glowing tree. Ethan looked into her eyes. "We've built something bigger than both of us." Velrocka nodded. Double quotes, "Yes." And yet, it all began with one simple act: to smile. The legacy as the years passed, the story of Velrocka and Ethan spread across the stars. Their bond became a legend told to children on many worlds. It was not a story of war or conquest. It was a story of courage, of trust, of choosing kindness. Even when fear shouted loudly, on distant planets. When children asked, "How did humans and Varkonians become friends?" the elders would smile and answer, "Because one human dared to smile at the one everyone else feared. And she dared to smile back." The final scene many years later, as new generations carried forward the legacy of unity, Ethan and Velrocka stood once again on a high balcony. The city below was brighter than ever. Velrocca whispered softly, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't smiled that day?" Ethan smiled again, his eyes warm. "No, because I believe kindness always finds its way to where it's needed most." They stood there, side by side, the hearts from different worlds forever united. And above them, the stars shined brighter, as if smiling back, asterisk,